I went and saw Only Fools and Horses last night.
Did you? Is it good?
No.
Oh. Is it not?
Were you expecting David Jason to be there?
No.
Is it Paul Whitehouse and...
Yeah, but Paul Whitehouse wasn't doing it, was he?
Oh, was it not?
He's only doing certain shows on the tour.
Yeah.
So Thursday night, I come in, get in the house, Lisa's already in bed, and Lisa said, I've got some bad news for tomorrow. I said, what's that? She said, Paul Whitehouse isn't playing Grandad. I went, you are joking me.
It's real world problems, this, isn't it? Real world.
And neither's Vinnie Jones playing Danny Driscoll. So the two well-known...
That's how they're selling it as well, isn't it?
And that's how they're selling it.
Yeah.
So, I was on a downer, to be honest with you. I thought, I've paid this money to come and see Paul Whitehouse
And he ain't there.
to play Grandad,
Yeah.
and he ain't there.
That's a shame.
And I didn't realise it was it was a musical as well.
What do you mean you didn't realise it was a musical?
Well, I thought it was a theatre show with a bit of, you know, music.
No,
but
it's
a lot
a
of
musical.
Yeah, but not all theatre shows are musicals.
No, but this one is.
Well, I
Does it
didn't.
say on the advert it's musical?
I didn't know. I didn't read it. I'm just focused on Paul Whitehouse.
So you've bought tickets to a show that you knew nothing about.
I knew about Only Fools and Horses. I knew about Paul Whitehouse. That was it.
That's why he's in a bad mood.
No, I'm not in a bad mood.
It seems like you're
I'm
in
in
a
a
bad mood.
tired mood.
Seems like you're in a bad mood.
I haven't stopped all morning. It's a rush for me to get over here.
Well,
Hmm.
I don't know what you want me to say.
That's piss taking.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, it seems like that's your relationship, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's better.
Yeah, to be fair.
Nothing's...
Are you going to take your coat off? Because it's making me feel really uncomfortable. I hate people sitting there with their coats on.
Yeah, but I take my coat off and then Ash feels really uncomfortable because I hang over the back of the chair.
That's true.
I've done that with mine.
Yeah, you're lucky.
So here it is. It's the podcast nobody asked for. Three guys in a kitchen, drinking coffee and having a chat.
So, one of my colleagues at work, and you guys are probably more knowledgeable than me on this, well, definitely more knowledgeable than me.
Always.
So, his name's Navinder Bain.
Okay, yeah, Nav.
And he's just had his first son. And he had to go to the temple where they go and open a big book and where the initial is,
The letter, first letter.
first letter. Yeah.
Yeah, but how you know that? How fixed is that? How?
What, the first?
No, the fact.
naming?
Yeah, I mean, do you have to do that?
If you're like, if you're religious and traditional,
Yeah.
Yeah. We do the same. We're similar, right? So depending on the day you were born, the syllable of that day, the first syllable of that day, is the syllable that you use to name you.
Right.
So I was born on Thursday, which is Guruwar, right? Guruwar. So my name was Gunwant
Right.
as a result of that, right?
Right.
When my dad came to the UK, when he first started working and stuff, it was the usual thing, you know, what's your name? My name is Bagwandas.
No one's saying that.
But you can call me Bagu if you like, right? But they said, we'll call you Wally, right? So forever afterwards, his name was Wally, right? So when I think that my dad probably recognised that very early on, that maybe, you know, having a name that people can't pronounce or whatever ain't going to go down very well. He changed it to something that was more. That's my understanding.
That's a link back to Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah.
What?
Rodney called him Dave.
Right. That's a lots of names there that I don't. Trigger called
called Rodney Dave.
Rodney Dave Trigger.
No. Trigger.
It's a separate person.
The road sweeper.
Yeah.
In Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah.
Called
Rodney Dave.
Oh, look,
Okay.
are we just finding out that Ash has never watched Only Fools and Horses?
I have watched all of it. But a long time ago. I don't remember too
And
much.
all through every series, he'd go, all right, Dave. And
Oh,
he'd go,
okay.
Trig, my name's Rodney.
Okay. I like this bit of banter, but we need to move on.
Let's
That's
get it
all right.
sorted.
So can you stop clicking your spoon for too much,
You
please?
gave me a bowl of...
You stuck him.
Here's a
Set you up, man.
Here's a bowl of fruit. You can't eat it.
Listen, I walked in, right?
There to tease you.
I've You better behave.
Yeah. Well, Bali also got a bowl of fruit, but he's finished his.
Yes, I know that.
Because Bali came at a time that was appropriate and early
What time
enough.
did we say you get here?
Doesn't matter. That's the reason.
If I book a reservation for 10 o'clock, I wasn't late.
Yeah,
I got here nearly 10 o'clock.
no. Having said that,
I was 5 to 10.
when you arrive here, every time you arrive here,
Yeah.
pretty much, apart from the other night,
Yeah.
every time you always arrive here early. Not that I'm unhappy about that.
This
I
is
like
the first
that.
time. Today is the first time I've ever been here before you.
Correct.
Ever.
There you go.
So you're having a dig at this guy, and he's always early.
He is early, but now
I
he's
get it.
complaining. He's complaining that he can't eat his fruit, and I'm saying, had he come at the normal time that he normally comes, he would have eaten that by now. But it's not a problem. We'll start, and you can just be a little, just don't click your spoon on your
Be
bowl.
delicate with the spoon.
That's
Have you got
right.
any plastic spoons?
I have actually, but he'll complain about that. Okay, so shall we kick it off,
Let's
right?
kick
and
it
then
off.
see how we get on. So
Indeed.
I want to welcome Bali.
Yeah.
Bali is somebody that I've kind of known for many, many years, on and off. A little while ago, towards the end of last year, I bumped into Bali in the gym, and he
Literally bumped into me.
literally,
You know what I mean?
literally, but and I didn't. He didn't move because can you see his size? He's better, bigger.
He's bigger than you.
He's a bit more sturdy than I am,
Yeah.
so he didn't move. But when we met, he informed me that he'd lost his wife, partner, about 6 months or so prior to Anne passing, right? And so we kind of connected on that level. We've kind of met a few times after that, and Buddy may or may not want to talk about that. But during those meetings, I got to know him better, and he started talking to me about his occupation and what he does, and I was really fascinated by that for two reasons. One is that it involves boxing, right? And in my mind, boxing's always been something that people do to knock other people out, right? I mean, I had a fling with liking boxing.
What?
Many years. What?
You had a fling?
No, I had a fling with boxing, if you like.
I don't think that's the right word.
I had a. Tell me what's the right word.
I don't know, but-
Tried it out.
So no, I didn't try it out. No,
Okay,
I had a fascination for it.
Right.
Decades ago with Muhammad Ali, right? And a lot of people did in those days, kind of because he was a big star. He was a personality, an amazing guy, and whether you like boxing or not, you loved him, right? So I had that kind of fling with it, if you like. Don't call it fling. But Bali introduced the boxing in a different way, and I was fascinated to hear more about that in terms of his occupation, but also what it meant to him and what it means to him before and what it means to him now, etc. So I'll let Bali introduce himself and talk about that a little bit, and we can ask questions or whatever you want and just see how that goes. Bali, welcome.
Cheers, Ash. Thanks. Stuart. Dave.
Morning.
Dave.
Andy.
That's it.
Rodney.
Rodney.
Oh, you put Dave in my head.
Bali.
Sorry,
Bali,
Andy.
get used to it.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay, yeah, so I set an organisation up about 3.5 years ago called Connectors Academy, CIC, so like a social enterprise. We used to do boxing and martial arts, but now it's just concentrating on boxing, which is a martial art, but everyone says it's slightly different. So we do boxing for mental health and for physical well-being. I work with young people, I work with children, I work with teenagers, work with young adults, work with older people. And the reason I set it up was I used to work for an organisation called Fight for Peace, who are based in London, and my role was travelling around the UK, working with different boxing martial arts clubs to set up youth programmes. So it could be like someone's doing boxing or judo or kickboxing, whatever it might be, and they want to support the young people because outside of the gym, some of the young people have lots of other issues going on in their lives. So how do you support that? So the way we did at Fight for Peace is we had various martial arts, and then we had 5 core pillars, which was education, employability, mentoring, support, the boxing martial arts, and what have I said? Education, there's education.
Instead of education.
And there's one more. I forgot one of those.
Well,
bits.
it's very expensive, isn't it?
What?
What you're doing, it's an expansive kind of
Expansive,
I
not
thought you
expensive.
said expensive.
I thought you
Yeah, I
said
thought you said it.
No.
I'd like to say everything I do is free for the people that come to us.
Wow.
Bali, tell us about, because we'll carry on in a minute, but you told me a story about when you first met the people from...
So there was so when I first went to Fight for Peace, I met.
I love the name, by the way.
Fight for Peace.
I met as it's based on. So it originated in Brazil, in Rio, and the Brazilian name is Luta pela Paz, which in translation, as close as you can, is called Fight for Peace. Because the guy that set that up, Luke, was from London. He went to Rio to do some. I think he was studying. It was part of one of his courses, and he worked as a volunteer, and he worked in the favelas, and he's an ex-boxer, and they set up this program, and it grew and grew and grew. Then it became its own organisation, and then he thought, if I can do it in Brazil, can I? Because there's a knife crime in London at the time, and he said it was very, very high. So he said, can I do it in London? And he set up, and it's still going now. It's been very successful. The reason I moved from Fight for Peace is because my partner got ill, and we found out she had a serious illness, and I didn't want to do all the. I wanted to be based in Coventry and do more Coventry focus, so I could be around more. So when I first went to Fight for Peace, I met as many young people, as many as staff. I chatted to them as much as I could in the first 2 or 3 months. And one of the guys that I met who became a youth worker, now he's got his own, I think he's got his own music youth organisation now. And I remember talking to him, and he said, like, you know what, Bali, when I first come here, I wanted to learn to fight. There were some people I wanted to fight and beat up, like. And he goes, it took him about 3 years. This is what he said to me. It took him about 3 years to fully understand what Fight for Peace was doing for them. And it was like, then he started, I get it now, I get it. It's about up here, what's up here. You know what I mean? Ain't just about
Bali's
this.
pointing to his head.
And I was there for just under 8 years, spent 2.5 years in Jamaica doing the same thing in Jamaica. And then, so all the experience I got from that, I put into the organisation we do now, but in a very slimmed down version. So very simple, you come and box and we chat. So I work with people, we did a bereavement once. I've got 2 new projects that I'm going to have a quick chat about. I've worked with people going through bereavement, and that's something we're about to set up, just a short 10-week programme for men in particular who are going through bereavement or they have a close family member that might be on the verge of becoming deceased. But so it's very simple. You come in and you can chat, and we work. What I didn't want to do is make it complicated. You know, you got this element, that element, this element, this element. I keep it very simple. We train them hard, we have fun, and then we talk. Not every session we talk, but we split it up because sometimes talking every single session is too much. Like, you know what I mean? And most of them come in, we have people come in and they want to fight. But you know what? And like, you know, all good training. I said to them, if you're angry, you come to us, talk to me at the beginning of the session. Because I just let you punch it out in the back. Just go and punch it out. And when you've punched it out, come back and we'll do the training and we'll talk.
So Bali, just on that point, this is all about boxing as a form rather than progressing into the ring.
So for me it is, so I'm not a competitive boxing coach, but I work in 2 gyms, and I said to kids, look, if you want to take this further, join the boxing club. Join the club, and then you can take it further. And I encourage that because I want them to. We don't do it. It's not make-up boxing. It's proper boxing.
Yeah.
But I'm not a competitive boxer.
So I boxed from the age of 12 to 16. I boxed for.
Where did you go?
In Bedworth.
Okay.
And my mate runs a gym today, Exall Boxing Academy, and I go to every one of their shows, and I do some. I help them run the shows. So I'm a big advocate of boxing, and I think society at the moment, have got very little outlet for youngsters
Especially male youngsters.
to release their pressure valves.
Yeah.
And I think what you're doing, and I'm really interested to expand and really dig into that, because I think that we're on a tipping point in society.
What do you think, just off the top of your head, what do you think is the biggest thing that young people maybe not developing as much as maybe in our age or before even our age, like Ash's age, maybe, like, you know what I mean? What do you think is missing? I ain't gonna say lacking because I don't want to. But what do you think's missing?
I would say patience.
Patience. Ash, what would you say?
Ability to communicate, I guess.
Communicate.
Yeah.
Dave, what would you say? Oh, sorry, Andy, what would you say?
I'm going to say ability to disconnect, because as we've discussed before about all the sort of how this world that young people live in now seems to be a little bit more sort of intense than it was when I was younger.
I would say resilience.
Resilience.
Yeah.
I would say people give up too easy. They look at something they're interested in for a few seconds, gets a little bit difficult, and they move on to something else. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the biggest things for me, boxing can develop, as you will know, is resilience. You know, when it gets tough, maybe so tough that you want to give up, and you still go for it. That's when you start developing this up here. I'm pointing to my head again, by the way.
I think you're absolutely right. I think when I boxed, I never got hurt once. That wasn't that I was good. It's just that when you get into the ring, your body produces endorphins and it produces ways of handling pain differently. You feel the pain afterwards.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. You go from the first round to the third round and you give everything you've got, and by the third round you're absolutely blowing. And I say to anybody, if you want to get fit, go in a boxing gym.
I have lots of people that come and they go to the gym, like, you know what I mean, and they do a session, I go, Bali, I'm knackered.
Yeah.
I'm knackered. Yeah. I say, because the training is, you're using muscles that you won't use on a machine. Yeah. You know, just people doing this. 1 minute
on a bag.
Even without a bag.
Yeah.
Just doing this.
Shadow boxing.
Using these. You can't develop it from doing whatever sort of exercise, like, you know. Yeah. Shadow boxing, you get tired.
Yeah.
Listen, I can do this, right, without moving my feet for hours. Yeah. I start moving my feet and doing that.
Knackered.
Yeah. It's different.
It's you're using your core.
Mm-hmm. All of this. You know, people don't realise
this is moving, and you got to tense it down. Mm-hmm. I mean, I do Krav Maga. Okay. I've done karate. I've always done combat stuff. Only because I've always been a big guy. At 12, I was 6 foot. So I used to go into carve. I used to know
size into
I used to know. I'll show you some photos in a minute.
Oh, please.
So I used to go into carve. A load of my mates used to live in Camden. I used to play for Bell Green Boys. So in the 80s, football hooligan was big, and you had to know.
Look after yourself. Yeah.
But not as a fighter. You have to build things that I don't think kids have got today. You've used the word resilience and stuff.
Yeah.
I can smell it. Because you're always around it, you can smell. It's a hard thing to describe, but I think kids today don't understand the rules of the streets.
Well, you're alert to things.
You're alert, to
things that are around you.
You just pick it up, and I think that children of today don't, because
inside more.
Well, it's
inside more. They in front of the screens,
but they don't mix with a wide spectrum society.
Yeah, and I think that's what I meant about communication. I meant that they're less engaged with other people. I mean, yes, they may be at school and all that kind of stuff, but largely it's a lot of the online things and stuff. And outside of school, they're maybe not engaging with other people, so they lack that kind of interaction ability. And the resilience that you're talking about, the fact that a lot of stuff that they do is kind of very, they do it for a while and they move on, and that's all about the attention, the amount of attention that they give to things like whatever interest they may have online or whatever it might be. It's flitting from one to another, and there's no kind of...
Yeah. I think that's why Bali's word resilience actually summarised what me, Stu, Ash, you said. Each word, patience, communication, and I said about disconnecting. But resilience is
Yeah.
an underlying thing that can
Yeah.
deal with all of those things, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So
One of the things, it's easy to say this, like, one of the ways we do it though is like, for instance, if someone's having difficulties at school, like, if there's certain exercises we do or certain activity they've pushed themselves in, the key to be able to make it successful is how do you relate what you're doing in the gym to other elements of their life, whether it's at home, whether it's at school, whether there's stuff going outside on the street, whatever it might be, if they're getting into trouble with the police, whatever it might be, is relating what you do in the gym. So if you we talk to people, you've just done X, Y, and Z. You know, sometimes when people do something, they don't realise what they've done. And it's only when someone reflects back, do you know what you've just done? What you've just achieved? I haven't done it, you've done it. And then relate that back to what they can do. And that might be simple, but they helped someone else. They saw someone having some difficulty, they went over and said, oh no, do like this, do like this. They point it out to them. Make them understand you're actually helping someone. You know, when people at school say you don't help no one, you're just selfish, or your parents say you're go back and tell them this is what I did today. So then you let them know you can do it and start. People don't change. Very rarely people change overnight.
No.
You know what I mean? Very rare. Some people do, but it's a development process. I've worked with some schools, like I'm working with 2 schools at the moment, and I said to them, you have to, if you want this to work, it has to be ongoing. Short-term interventions work on a short-term basis. Unless there's something they can progress on to continue what they're developing, you do it and it's almost worthless.
I'm pleased that you've said you're doing it with schools. My wife works in a school. We've spoke about
What school?
She works in Hinckley, in a school in Hinckley. But we spoke about this, didn't we? About when we watched Adolescence, and we spoke about the episode where it went into schools. To me, that horrified me. For children not to have that respect.
Yeah. And what does boxing build?
It gives you that respect.
Absolutely.
And for me, I think parents look at schools to sort out the problems. The problems start at the home. To give the pressure to the school to say, he won't come to school, he won't do this, we need to sort it out. Yes, it's a partnership because they spend a lot of time at school. But I think what schools are lacking now is physical education. That it's seen as being immaterial in a child's development.
Yes.
It's more than that, it's fundamental to a child's development because it releases those anxieties, those stress levels and everything else.
But that's how it should be promoted in school. Even just normal PE, that's how it should be. It's not just you're going for a run or you're going to play this sport. What are you developing when you do that? And that's what teachers should be.
And it's interesting because I coached football from the age of 12 to 16 and we had a wide spectrum of boys that played for us, and some were from single parents, some were from traditional families and so on and so forth. And we had children that were overweight and stuff. We weren't selective. We didn't say, we want the best footballers. We obviously had aspirations for the kids to get to finals and stuff like that. But when me and Rich did it, it was more about giving something back to those kids, giving them structure, getting them to understand about teamwork, working together. Falling out, no problem with that. I love them falling out. I love them pushing each other, rallying with each other, because that's part of life. You've got to have that stability and that ability, skills to handle falling out and making back up again.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting to see, and I want you to really open up and share what you think the end point is for these individuals. Because if you're doing kids and then you're doing teenagers and young adults.
Can I add to that question?
Yeah.
So what I'd like to know a little bit is about the kind of difficulties that kids come to you with, and how what you do changes that. What kind of changes do you see in them during that period that you're working with them?
Things like very simple things like things like respect. Confidence is a massive one for a lot of people. Just being able to have that release so that they don't let go out on the street. They don't burst in anger out on the street. Having that, like you said, releasing the valve sometimes, let the pressure out, let the stress go, you know what I mean?
Bali, what's going on in the streets? Because I haven't got, my kids are 22 and 23, obviously your daughter is that, she fits smack in the middle of it.
Yeah.
What's going on the streets?
What do you mean?
What's-
I'm not a youth worker.
No, no, you're not.
a youth worker,
But
so.
you're touching more children
So we,
and teaching them about values and so on and so forth. Ash's question to me is really important. We need to understand what you said about the frustrations and confidence and so on. Why are kids not feeling confident? Where is that being stifled?
there's a whole host of it. I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert in it, but one is not interacting on a. We went to one of the schools, and you have kids that literally might not talk to anyone else because they have no confidence.
Right.
And you're in a school, 1,000 people around you of similar ages,
Yeah.
and all day, unless someone directly speaking to you, talk to no one.
Yeah.
Imagine how much more isolated you feel in that situation than even being at home on your own.
Yeah.
Being at home on your own is less isolating than being on your own in front of a crowd.
Yeah.
So we worked with the last group we worked with. I won't say the schools, but in one of these schools it was all about confidence, and basically very simple things like. So the first session we were there, what I like to do is once they've learned something, is that they go to the head of the class, and rather than me showing them, they show each other. And at the first session, there was something. No, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. You know what I mean? And by the end of the whole program, every single person in the class would go to the front without me even asking them. They would volunteer to go to the front. And when we did something for every single one of them said, you know what? I've met new people that I can say that are friends.
Yeah.
And I'm more confident to not let someone else says I'm rubbish at something, I'm more confident to think, that's not going to affect me now. That's their problem, not my problem, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That for young kids that are coming in with no confidence
That's great.
is massive.
That's great.
Yeah. I tell you what's really interesting, Ash. In our sales roles, if I don't know about you, mate, but if somebody said to me, can you go and present to Ash and Dave and talk about the latest product, I would be absolutely scared because these guys would know as much as me, or if not more.
Yeah. To their
But
own.
put me in front of 500 people,
Yeah.
1,000 people, not a problem.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah. Because you're teaching them something
Because
that
they
you
know
don't
what
know.
you're talking about.
Correct. Yeah.
But if you go and talk to somebody who knows nothing, they've come to listen to you because you know more than them.
I
Totally
thought you were
different.
saying no, nothing like the way that conversation.
but you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And it's really interesting that you're giving those kids that confidence to go, do you know what? If you can stand in front of your mates and you think you're going to get ridiculed and they come after and say, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
How
We would
wonderful
do-
that is.
There's simple things. At the end of that session, we would sit down in a circle and everyone had to say something about someone else that they thought they did very well
Oh,
in that
brilliant.
session.
Brilliant.
And so everyone's getting some sort of praise, and so again, competitive boxing, and some people are better than others, and there is some people who have natural talent.
Yeah.
Some people you can spend years with them almost, and they will never really pick it up. And other people like a couple of days, and wow, what's
But at least they're spending time with you
the most important thing
Spending
for
time with other
me.
people.
and other people.
So there's a very, and again, it's from my experience at Fight for Peace. It's like if someone comes, bang, bang, lay out, bang, 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 bang. At the beginning of that session, their brain wouldn't have been in a situation or in a state where you could sit down and have a conversation
Yeah.
with them where it develops something.
Yeah.
At the end of the session, when they've done up that, their brain is in a state where
Yeah.
they can sit down and they can have a conversation around development.
Brilliant.
And it's that simple.
And I think
You
just-
lay it out
Yeah, for me,
in a safe way.
in a safe way, and the fact that how long do these sessions? How long is a course?
So in the schools, it goes from, and this obviously for me it would be through the whole year, but one it's for a whole term, and another school it's going to be 10 weeks, but it was 6 weeks, well half a term basically, and it's 10
So it's
weeks.
very.
And I think that
But for me, it should be. I ideally do it for the whole year with one group.
And I think that's brilliant because I used to be a youth worker, and we've touched on going into schools and developing this. And I saw something on the news the other day about knife crime, and it was some young people who had been involved in gangs and carrying knives, and they were going into schools and developing and delivering, a morning session with the kids in the school. And that's great, that's fantastic. But they're not building a relationship over a period of time. And I think that, for me, is crucial in the development of young people, because young people you can't just do this in a day, because otherwise it's just a PowerPoint presentation. They're going to go home and they're not going to absorb it. What you're doing over a period of time is building the relationships, which is also key to enabling those conversations to happen.
But also a role model.
And a role model.
Right.
Well, I don't want to be a role model.
See, no, but you're not. You may not intend to be, but the fact that
what I hope is they become role models for each other.
Yeah.
That's the. You said what's the end game? The end game is these young people, however long they stay with us, when they go into whatever life they want to do, they commit to it.
Yeah.
Whatever they want to do, they push themselves so they can achieve. Whether that could be being a bin man, that could be being a doctor. So I don't care what it is. But when you do it well and do it in a respectful way.
Yeah.
When you go back to your families, be respectful. When you go to school, understand, teachers have a hard job. I say when we did the school, I said, would any one of you want to be your teacher? I said, no. You know why? Because it's hard. So you have to pay them some respect, you know what I mean?
Good point.
For me, on the respect front, and what you've just said, Andy, I'd still like to understand where this knife crime's coming from. You mentioned confidence, okay? Knives have always been around. I spoke to my dad. My dad's 77 years of age. And I said to my dad, was the knives around when you were around, Dad? He's a cov kid, right? He said, son, there was always flip knives and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Right? The kids are now working with 10-inch machetes, right? I would love to sit in front of some lads, all right, and say, tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what's giving you that fear that you have to carry something like that. When I walked around, when I used to go into cov in the 80s and 90s, the only thing I carried was my fists if I needed to. To carry a knife, you're going out with intent.
Okay.
And that's why I really would like to understand the generation.
I think, and lots of people might not, everyone that carries a knife is not going out with intent. Some people genuinely think it's a defence mechanism for them.
So they're doing it.
I'm not saying everyone.
Right.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
I'm saying there are some people who will go out for genuine fear and carry it, and it's the wrong thing to do.
What a worry.
It's not the right thing to do.
What's a worry?
But like you said, look, I think the difference is, look, you said right, your dad, flip knife, modern rockers, they were massive, violent, massive fights, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like 60s and that.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's not new.
No.
And I don't know, that's a youth working, whether it's more now or it was more then, in terms of population or what, I don't know. But we hear about it more.
There's certainly more deaths, I think, now.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversations about this all the time. I mean, I think we can do this as a separate thing if you want or whatever. But I mean, I listened to a radio program the other day, which I'd never heard anything like this before, and it's a whole series, and it's a psychologist. What do they call them? Psychologists who work in a prison. There's a particular name.
Psychologist.
No, there's a
That would be a good title, wouldn't it?
there is a name for it. Anyway, the point is that they interview somebody who's actually committed crimes, been in prison, right? And they really delve into the psychology of why they did certain things when they were young and what they, how they feel about it now and so on. And that whole thing about, in this particular one that I listened to, that whole thing about knife and why carry a knife came into it. So that's a good one to kind of, and I'll try and find it for you and I'll send you a link.
Yeah.
But what I was interested in, Bali, so we talked about the kids that come to you, we talk about some of the difficulties that they have, and you talk about the period of time that you spend with them and what you achieve with them. And so it must be amazing to see that change in them at the end of it. For them themselves, but what does it?
There's no end.
Not end, but I mean, the changes that you see in them, and the positive changes that you see in them.
Yeah.
But what I'm keen to understand is, what does that mean for you? What does that mean to you?
How many people really, really get job satisfaction? I have it almost every day of my life. You know what I mean? So what I do now isn't even a job. Like, and we say to like, look,
It's a vocation.
They're like family.
It's a vocation.
I've had some people with me I started this setup like 3.5 years ago. I've had some of the lads with me since they're 15 now. They were 12 years old, like, when they started. And some of them, like, just in terms of development, like, we do a session on a Saturday at Coventry Boys and Girls Club, and I had a problem. My back was playing up, my knees were playing up, everything. One of our lads bugged. I said, but he's 15 years old, bugged. Can you take the class today? He said, sure, Bali, no problem. Took the class. And he's a very, very, very good coach. And I said, Bogdan, I hope you become a boxer, but if you don't, you will be a very, very, very good coach. Like, you know what I mean?
Going to physical training.
Anything.
Yeah.
That's development.
That's great.
What it means. So just a quick one, because Ash mentioned about my partner passing away and everything. So I took some time off. When I went back to boxing, the young people were my support as much as I was their support. It's quite, for me, it was a beautiful thing. Like, you know what I mean? They were as supportive to me in that period as anybody could be. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that for me shows me what they're about. You know what I mean? And there is you mentioned relationships not just a minute ago. Like, having a positive relationship in your life is as powerful as anything anybody can do in anybody's life. Even if it's just one positive relationship, that person then has someone they can go to release the valve. When you have no one to go to, even when your parents go, oh, come and talk to me, there might be something that you do not want to say to your parents. Everybody needs that valve. And even before I set this up, you're YouTube sports coaching. A good coach is sometimes the strongest, most supportive relationship that a young person will have, bar no one. Bar teachers, bar social workers, bar youth workers, bar parents, siblings even. So a good coach is as valuable in that person's life as gold.
You're right, because I remember a few parents coming up to me when I was doing the football, and they'd say, I want to thank you for what you've done for so-and-so. And I go, what do you mean? He's lost weight, he's eating healthily, he's going to bed early. You know, all these things that you don't see because you have him for an hour and a half on a Saturday morning and an hour on a Sunday. You know, but they can see it every minute of the day.
I want to just switch this a little bit. And I'm looking at Dave over there. I'm sorry, Andy.
Can I just mention something first? So I mentioned about 2 programs. So from May, which is coming up, we have got some funding in to do a short-term bereavement project with men.
Okay.
So it's free one-to-one support, and if they want to meet as a group, we can meet as a group once a week as well.
Okay.
And we're doing a Silvers program for over 50s. I don't know if any of you are over 50.
Sorry, Anne, that leaves you out.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Dave.
I'm a silver plus.
You are.
So
Plus.
So this is going to be for virtually the whole year. It's about 50 weeks, and it's free one-to-one training. And again, if people want to meet as a group, or train as a group, they can train as a group. So if you know anyone who's interested, I'm happy for you to pass on my details.
So what? Yes, you've named it as a bereavement kind of group.
So
how different is that from what you normally do? Apart from
it's
the
no
fact that
different.
the
Apart from we're going to be
under-
talking about bereavement and how it feels, or if it's something that you think's coming up in your life, how you're coping with it, ideas around how to cope with it, etc. So it's basically what we do, which is the boxing and the chat, but the chat's going to be around.
And so your recent experience, how does that fit in with that?
And it totally fits in terms of so one of my son's friends, his dad is passed away now, but he was ill, seriously ill, and he was coming up to being deceased, and Cass said, look, my friend said, he needs to get some stuff out, so I did one-to-ones with him, and we just chatted. I gave him some of my experience. He told me how he's feeling. He got some, it's almost, for someone where it's coming up to, it's almost a safety net to say, look, there's nothing wrong with feeling like that. You don't need to feel guilty about that. I felt guilty about that sometimes there's nothing you can do about that. And you know, it's the chats we've had together. Like, you know what I mean? It's them sort of chats, but you're doing some boxing in between it as well.
And that's a bit I was going to ask you two guys, because I haven't experienced. I've lost my nan and my granddad and stuff like that, but they were at an age where I wasn't sad for them. Because they both wanted to go. My nan actually said, "I've had enough. I'm tired. I want to go." But you two have had bereavement, and okay, it wasn't a sudden bereavement. They had illnesses, but I think the anger thing for me is quite interesting because does everybody have that anger? You know, did you have anger when Anne passed away? And Bali, did you have anger as well?
I had anger,
both.
but I had a release for it.
And that's my point.
But I had anger, yeah.
Yeah, and that's my point. And what I really appreciate you saying there, it's nothing to be embarrassed about.
I say to the kids, look, kids that come to me, kids that come to me with anger, I say anger is a natural thing. Everybody gets anger. It's how you deal with it.
Absolutely.
Where you choose to put that anger. That's what's important.
It's the right. There's nothing wrong with being angry. It's just being the right level of angry in the right direction, isn't it? Rather than it's an emotion that you're going to experience either way.
But what Bali's described, not only is it okay, but it's a safe environment to do it.
Yeah.
What we don't want is people to think there is no safe environment to go and do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I haven't shared this with you guys, but this week I had an altercation with a member of the public, and this guy was really, really aggressive. It was in a supermarket. It was 20 past 8 at night, and he tried to walk out the store with a basket full of food, and he was accosted by the security guard, and I just stood there and just watched and observed what was going on, and it all de-escalated in the fact that all the food was on the floor and so on and so forth, and he was outside the store. So the staff of the supermarket are told not to get involved because it's outside the store. But I just stood there to make sure that nothing happened. And this guy who had tried to thieve was with his partner and a 10-year-old daughter. Now, everybody's going, oh, and I thought, no, that guy must be really, really desperate to do something. Now, this guy made a beeline to me, and I just said to him, calm down, just calm down. Now, when it all had finished and the police had come and they'd walked away, I walked away really chuffed. Really chuffed, because, as you said, I've had the training, you know. I could have quite easily gone into an altercation with that guy over what? But because I have that, now the skills to go, it's not important.
The control.
It's not important. You know, the things that I have in my toolbox gives me that confidence to go, mate, calm down. You know?
So here it is. It's the podcast nobody asked for. 3 guys in a kitchen, drinking coffee and having a chat.
We've got plenty more to discuss with Bali, so we'll be back on Bank Holiday Monday with part 2 of this episode, more than just boxing. In the meantime, Ash is off to Valencia with his Spanish language group to practice the lingo, whilst me and Stu have a stroll around the park pen. Don't forget to like, subscribe or share this podcast, and remember, we now have the WhatsApp community to further discuss our topics. Enjoy the week ahead, amigos, and all the good weather it promises. See you next Monday.